two homies that just love to talk sports, but have a different take on it, a different aspect on how we talk about it and how we deliver it. And 5 years in, and you know what? You see me, Facebook Live.
Yes, sir.
Here's my partner.
Yes, sir.
Facebook Live, you know what it is. Sports Rap Podcast is the group. So welcome to another episode, the 5-year anniversary episode. So first and foremost, shout out to the boss lady who's running around somewhere out of the city. We don't know where, but somewhere. She's running around having
Mo.
a good time. So Mo, enjoy yourself. We gonna hold it down for you.
We'll wait till she get back so we can do a complete
do it real
toast.
big. Yeah. So we just want to say thank you to you for having us, sticking beside us, pushing us to succeed to where we are today. And folks, if you don't know, it's been a nice little run. But like they say, the grind don't stop. Mighty Mouse, thanks for tuning in. Always a good friend of the show. So everybody, chime in when you can, if you can. We will definitely get you acknowledged on air. But getting back to the boss lady, Heat 100 Radio is our home now. This is where we are. This is where we've been for the past 5 years. And just want to say thank you again to her and everybody else that's here with us. All the other shows that are here that support us, and we support you as well. And we just appreciate the love and support that we get. Still growing. Viewership, listenership is still growing. I get stuff almost every day, every other day for people that want to join the group. I'm getting more follows, people that want to follow as we do what we do. So we appreciate all the support from all over. Our reach now, if my partner didn't know, if I haven't mentioned it to you, our reach, Chicago with Shawana Jordan. We got Texas with Mike Kelly, a couple other people out there. Louisiana with Tiffany Singleton. Florida with my uncle, Rodney Gaines. And then everybody else that we know that are our homies that appreciate and enjoy what we do. And like I said, we bring you sports, but we bring you sports on a different level. We bring it to you as a fan, but we also try to get people to understand the business side, the other side of being a fan. Because the other side, as far as the business side, gets lost in the mix a lot of times. And I'm speaking on that because, Sixers just hired a new coach. And immediately, and slightly before that, there was a lot of rumors. And there's still going to be rumors. It's constant. It's what happens in the world of sports. People are talking about the Joel Embiid possibly trade and the Ben Simmons trade for this person and that person. When, if you pay attention, General Manager Elton Brand said at the end of the season he's not looking to trade either one of those guys. He's looking to do a better job putting complementary players around them.
They are the reason why he came here.
Absolutely. So it would make no sense for him to move either one of those guys when they were part of the reason why he came here to do this, what he does. So we're going to work with him. And I mean, I like we talked about it when it happened. I really, really see a change. I think it's going to be a turn. The page is going to be turned. And it just showed with Elton Brand. Initially, when he got the job, he made the trade for Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, which at the time were great moves for the team where they were. Great moves. Unfortunately, it got to the point where free agency came and hit us, and there was possibly no way they could keep both of them, which I think we should have found a way to try and keep both of them. But when things went the way they went with Jimmy behind the scenes, and a lot of stuff that a lot of fans don't really know about, but we know because we got some inside track, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So, and I tell people all the time, in essence, at that particular point, you couldn't let both of them walk.
You couldn't.
And when it happened, I said to myself, wasn't too much in agreement with the money, but again, I see the other side where it's like I said, they couldn't let both of them walk. So you had to keep one of them, and you pretty much at that point had to do whatever you needed to do to keep one of them here, and that's what they did. So you got Doc Rivers in the building, and Stan Groovy Laws. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, thanks, Stan. Blessings to you too, bro. Appreciate you. And it is what it is, but I think some things are going to happen. They just hired 2 other guys to help Elton Brand, 2 more basketball guys to help Elton Brand, who did decent jobs with Pacers and the Orlando Magic. They did pretty good jobs there, so that's a help, that's a plus. That you can check that box, if you will. And I think things are going to get better. And again, the Philadelphia fan base is immediate in nature. When I say that, I mean they want things to happen immediately. But
impatient.
You have to, and impatient. But you have to understand where we are. It's not going to happen immediately. It may have something may happen this year where we'll get to start to see a turn, and it's got to be a progression, and it's going to be a progression. But again, the first move of hiring Doc Rivers as coach was a great move. Then the second move of hiring David Yeager as an assistant was another great move. Because before he was let go with the Kings, he did a decent job with the Kings.
He did.
He pretty much got the Kings on that ramp upward to where they are right now.
And a lot of people who may be listening, who may not dig in the crates about who just came in the front office, just go read up on them. Just go identify yourself with what's going on, because you'll hear about these moves happening, and you may not clearly understand why they are happening and who they're bringing in, opposed to what we already had.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yep. And I think for for the Sixers, and we always talk, but I think for the Sixers, it's a thing about identity. And I think for me, I can't speak for anybody else.
Good morning to you too.
I think that Doc Rivers brings an identity that this team didn't have.
Right.
The team, we didn't know at one time we were a defense team.
Yep.
Then Brett Brown said we got to score more, so we became this offensive team.
Yeah.
But what Doc Rivers gives is a balance.
Yep.
And one of the things he said repeatedly is, I don't know if you watch the teams that I play, but the teams that I've had, we score.
Yeah.
But we also know how to lock in and get possessions.
Absolutely.
So that's that accountability thing and effort he was talking about. So I can't wait.
And one of the biggest things
we were so locked in to get Mark Jackson, we didn't know Doc was coming.
One of the other things I like about what Doc Rivers said was, and this goes piggybacking to all the rumors of the Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons possible trades or alleged trades. Like I said, rumors. Doc Rivers has said several occasions, when they on the floor together, those two, they win 65% of their games. Right now in the East, I may be stretching a little bit, but the way the East is set up right now, 65% can get you into the playoffs.
Most definitely.
In an 82-game season, 65% will get you into the playoffs. Now it's just a matter of where you get seeded at, but I think 65% of your 65% wins in the East will get you in the playoffs.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Without question. I got a gentleman. I got a brother of mine who's he's a coach. My man Rob. You might know Rob as well. Rob is over at Alvernia, but he was over at Rosemount. Like, he just got a heck of man. He's just resourceful. He's a basketball guy. So I'll see if I can bring him in on the camera. I'll shoot it over to him, and if he can, we'll lock him in.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll get his take on the Sixers thing. He's a diehard Sixers fan as well.
Yeah.
And it's early, so it would be wonderful, Rob, if you see this.
So Sixers fans,
log in.
Sixers fans like myself and my partner here with me today, just know it's going to be some work being done over the summer. You can just feel it. You can sense it with Doc Rivers being here, and like I said, the adjustments they've made in the front office, the determination, and the angst of Elton Brand, and especially the way we went out in the bubble this season. Nobody expected that, and it was hurtful for all of our fans, it was super hurtful and upsetting for Elton Brand as a GM for what he had done, and looking at the roster on paper, like we always say, what the expectations were. But still, you also have to play the games, and you have to be coached. And again, Doc Rivers can work with these personalities because he's done it in the past. He won a championship with strong personalities, if you will, in Boston, with KG, Rondo, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, especially KG. I mean, I love KG, but that personality, his intensity and his love for the game gives him that personality that was dealt with by Doc, and it took them a long way. So we'll see, definitely see what happens. So with that being said, we're gonna get into some sports stuff as we always. We're gonna give you some scores and some news. Got a couple things we want to talk about. We definitely gonna talk about this football season, this week 6, and we're just gonna talk about the football season in general, and it ties into everything that's going on today. You know, if you listen to the news, if you listen to people in the politics people, as I like to call them, the politicians, you know, not the magicians, but the politicians, as we call them. Kevin Wolf, thanks for tuning in again. They're saying that once this weather really starts to break and we hit into winter, that there will be another spike in this coronavirus. So, got some football stuff to talk about in regards to that, and we'll get to that. So, week 6, Sunday, yesterday, Houston falls to Tennessee, 42-36. Denver surprises New England, 18-12.
That was big.
Yeah. Cincinnati loses to Indianapolis. Atlanta gets a win, 40-23 over Minnesota. Kirk Cousins threw 3 or 4 interceptions in the first half alone. So he's back to being the Kirk Cousins that we knew from Washington.
Regular.
Baltimore at Philadelphia. Philadelphia falls in a valiant late game effort, 30-28. Talk a little bit about that as well. Pittsburgh beats up on Cleveland, 38-7. Chicago, surprisingly at 5-1 right now, beat Carolina 23-16. Detroit outlasts Jacksonville 34-16. Miami beats the Jets 24-zip. Green Bay falls to Tampa Bay, Battle of the Bays, 38-10. And Sunday night's closeout game, San Francisco defeats the Rams, a division game for them, 24-16. Ryan Dendy, thanks for tuning in. Tonight, closing out week 6, you got 2 Monday night games, and 2 Monday night games last week, 2 Monday night games this week. This is all part of what we're going to get to a little bit later on down the line. With all this coronavirus and COVID, now they actually have a COVID list for teams, which is really strange. And again, people, you might say I'm being redundant. You might say you're tired of hearing it. But I tell you from the very beginning, and I told you from the very beginning, these other sports leagues should have followed as best they could
the
NBA.
Yep.
Now, the NBA, don't get me wrong, the NBA did have a couple pop-ups where some guys left the bubble and whatever and had to be quarantined again, you know, some other things. But for the most part, they handled it very well. And I said the biggest key to them handling it as well as they did was when they went into preparations for the bubble, they didn't just look at what they were going to do in the bubble. That they also looked forward and had plans in place if this happens, if that happens. So people, other leagues should have followed the NBA team. I give hockey some credit, the NHL some credit, because they did pretty well themselves in their own bubble, where they had two places where they had teams playing out of. So they did okay. Baseball, football, yeah, y'all should have paid attention. So tonight, closing out week 6 at 5 p.m., Kansas City at Buffalo, and the regular 8:15 Monday night game, Arizona at Dallas tonight, without Dak Prescott. Unfortunately,
there's been a lot of trash talk too between those quarterbacks there.
Who's that?
Pat Holmes and Allen. They've been talking about who's got the strongest arm. So they've been saying little stuff here and there. And they've been showing them on camera, like airing it out, and you know. So I'm waiting to see what this
If-
thing. I got him in fantasy football, so I need
And
20.
I hear that.
Pat
If
Holmes,
I
I need
take-
20.
If I
I
had
need
to
20.
be if I had to be put on the spot and pick one of those two guys, I'm going with Big Red's quarterback
Yeah,
and Pat Mahomes.
yeah.
And I say that because of what he's done so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Josh Allen
Josh Allen.
is having a great season so far, but it's about time.
Yeah.
You know, it's about time for him to have not so much a great season, but it's about time for him to start performing like the draft pick that he was.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball, we are now set for the World Series. Had Game 7 yesterday in the National League Championship Series. The Dodgers outlast the Braves 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
In other sports news, Lopez stuns
man.
Lomachenko to become the undisputed lightweight king. Ivan Robinson brought that to my attention, but I was definitely had it in my notes to get to it. So thanks for reminding me. And you know, I was definitely going to get to it. But that was a surprise to a lot of people, I'm sure, me included. And you know, there was some talk about people couldn't find Lomachenko and who's he going to fight and this, that, and the third. Well, he found somebody to fight, and he met his match. So you have Lopez, I forget his first name, but Lopez against stuns Lomachenko to become the undisputed lightweight king. The Tampa Bay Rays had advanced to the World Series already prior to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series last night. So we've got the Dodgers and the Rays playing in the World Series in Major League Baseball. Jeff Van Gundy is a finalist for the Houston Rockets job. Another injury to report in the NFL, and this is just one that I just saw off the top of my head and jotted it down real quick. The Steelers linebacker Devin Bush tears his ACL. There was an injury in the game last night. Raheem Mostert again seemed to tweak an injury, so we don't know his status.
Got an ankle situation.
Yeah, we don't know his status as of yet.
I'm waiting for that to come through now.
Yeah, like we mentioned in our opening, Dave Yeager is joining Doc Rivers' staff as assistant coach with the Sixers. Daryl Morey, former GM of the Rockets, has stepped down. You know, relieved himself of the duties there. Just staying there for a second. Now they're in need of a GM and a head coach. And again, like I said, Jeff Van Gundy, the analyst, is a finalist for that job. But besides that, there are some other problems going on in Houston. And it's kind of a trail, kind of a like paper trail, if you will, with Mike D'Antoni. We talked about it, and I talked about it to several other people, and it's just known that everywhere he goes, he tends to take teams that were either mid-level, decent, or somewhere ascending or attempting to ascend to the top tier, and he breaks them down. He broke Houston down, and it all started back when they traded away Clint Capella. They had just re-signed Clint Capella because of his play, and rightfully so, he earned that money. And then they trade him away, and they wanted to go super small ball. So there was a time they were playing in the playoffs. Robert Covington, former Sixer at 6'7", was their starting center, which was not going to cut it.
Was not going to cut it.
Then I've seen rumors where, you know, the initial rumors started with Mike D'Antoni possibly being a candidate for the Sixers job until Doc Rivers emerged, which I thank God happened, because I could not have been as much of a fan as I have been with Mike D'Antoni coming here.
You got rid of everybody.
Now there's been rumors that the Houston Rockets are interested in Joel Embiid, and they're looking to trade the house except for James Harden. And then today I see this morning that there might be some rumors, or there are some rumors that James Harden may be on the verge of also being moved. So Houston is a mess right now.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah. The Sixers hired, like we said, 2 front office people to help. Former Pacers front office man Peter Dinwiddie and Magic front office Peter Carangua. So that should help Elton Brand, I think. And I say that, and this is no disrespect to the ownership. I love the ownership because finally the Sixers are in that luxury tax where they haven't been in the past few seasons or whatever, so they don't have a problem with spending the money that they need to make the team what they want it to be.
Right.
I just think that they needed more basketball minds in that front office to help Elton Brand get along. And you see, Pacers, not too bad. You know? Magic, up and coming. So I think it's going to help.
Things are looking up.
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's definitely going to help. So just to get into some of these football games from yesterday, like I said, we talked about the Eagles. Since we're here for, and I know Baldy, you're a 49ers fan, but you always keep it 100 with me when we talk Eagles, because we're just talking football. You know, for sakes of sports discussion is what we do here. And again, second week in a row, I saw some things that, as the cliche goes, some good in it and some positives that you can take from yesterday's game. I think yesterday's game ultimately boiled down to play calling late in the game, but I also saw that the offense is bad.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. The offense is bad. And at this point, you can't say, well, it's on hold or it's on pause, whatever, because, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are not playing. We can't use that anymore.
I tried not to go into, I had a conversation with, Putt.
Yeah.
So Putt's son, Lil Rome, I had a conversation with him, and he's like, no, they can't blame this one. They can't blame this one on the quarterback. And this is what I told him. I said, I understand you feel that way, but they give them the credit when they win.
Absolutely.
So you got to give them all the credit when they lose. Yeah, there are parts of that game that he has no part in, what the defense does and things of that nature. And I get that. He's not out there catching the ball. He's throwing the ball.
Yep.
Drop passes happen, which can stymie a possession. I get that. But let's look at how many possessions you had. Don't just look at the drop passes.
Right.
Because that drop pass could have been, a couple of them were in third down situations. In those third downs, you only completed about 3 of the third downs of I think it was 13 or 14 of them you had.
Yeah.
So you talking about drives that stopped not because of all drop passes. Some had issues of front line situations where he was forced out and they collapsed on him. I get all that. But there are times that Carson Wentz holds on to the ball.
Too long.
And there has to be an outlet. Y'all almost got to go to a pro set.
Yeah.
You almost got to break it down and go to a pro set and have 2 running backs. One's going to stay when you see that coverage.
Yep.
So that's going to be the blocker. They can delay block and then peel out opposite directions. You can go here, you can go here. But the issue is him not having those options in those short areas.
Absolutely.
Because you know they coming, so you need an additional blocker.
Yep. It goes.
But you got to look.
Yeah.
He's the quarterback.
It goes into that thing, like we say, KYP.
Yeah.
Know your personnel.
Know your
And
personnel.
this goes all the way across the board. So instead of that normal cliche A for effort in regards to Carson Wentz, I give him a B- for effort. Because I see that he is trying.
Right.
He is definitely trying. There's no doubt about that. But on the flip side of that, like Baldy just mentioned, the play calling has to change. He, at more times than not, has to get rid of the ball or use his feet. And when I say play calling, the coach knows that he's at his best when he's out of the pocket, when he has the ability to roll out of the pocket. You have to design stuff for that to happen, to get him comfortable in the beginning of the games. And you already know your personnel. You can't say it's because it's Travis Fulgham and whoever these other guys are. These are the guys that you practice with.
Right, exactly.
So you know what you're getting into. You know what you have going into a game. So the play calling for me has to be altered, has to be changed. And I think at this point, and we talked about this back in week 2, at this point, you have to incorporate, you're beginning to do it, but you have to incorporate Jalen Hurts a lot more than what you are right now. Because he's that double threat. He can throw it and he can run it. So now, when you use him more than what you have been using him, you kind of shake up teams' game planning now. And you don't have to legitimately show your hand early in the game, but in different moments when you feel like that team has a read on what you're doing, it's when you use guys like that. So now you got the defense on the heels, you got the defensive coordinator thinking, wait a minute, is this just going to be one play, 2 plays, or is he going to be a bigger part of this game? Now I got to adjust a little bit more than just the normal adjust, because you always have to make adjustments.
Right.
So now you have to get them
That's what
to
the
the
game's
point.
about.
You have to get them to the point where they have to make more adjustments than they're comfortable with. And again, like I said, I give him a B minus because his effort. I see the effort, but he can only do so much. And I say B minus because there are throws that I've seen him make that I know he can make that at this point right now he's not making. And you can't blame it on the drops. Because like Bob just mentioned, drops will happen.
They will.
But
it's just a part of the game.
Some of the passes that he's been missing are passes that quarterbacks should be able to throw in their 5th year, being the number 1 pick. Some of these passes you've got to be able to make those passes.
And again, let me say this too, because like we'll start diving into different things about it. And I might kind of like get ahead of myself where you have people that may not understand what we saying in general.
Right.
But it's enough information out here for you to kind of catch up to what we saying.
Oh, yeah.
And all I'm saying is when I say pro set, a pro set just requires you to have 2 running backs, right? And you can have them at the slot, but you still have 3 receivers. You have a tight end and 2 wide receivers. And in most cases, they're tighter end.
Right.
To kind of conceal what a defense wants to do in a blitz package.
Yep.
You can always use motion to add a 3rd wide receiver, which would be that other running back. So you can start off with 2 in the backfield and move 1 over, and then you can move them back.
Yep.
You know.
And at this point, the 16 hits on Carson Wentz, was it 6 or 7 sacks yesterday? You have to understand as a coach that you need to help that offensive line. You know what that offensive line is. There's not much you can do about it right now. So you got to play with those guys. But you have guys on your roster that you can use to help that situation. Is what we're both saying. That's what Baldy made when you had the pro set. So the Giants got a win yesterday. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty, but they did get a win. So now everyone in the NFC East has at least 1 win. Dallas is sitting at the top with 2 wins. Funky division right now. It's arguably, if not, the worst division in the NFL right now. You got somebody in first place with 2 wins. The second place team is 1-4-1. The other 2 teams are 1-5. So it's a horrible division. And unfortunately, somebody from that division is going to make the playoffs because somebody's got to win the division.
Right.
And that's probably going to be the only team out of the division to make the playoffs this year. You know, that's where we are with that.
Yeah, I was waiting on my man Bird. He's trying to log in here, trying to get in here because he's been having some. He wanted to have a little conversation about Jalen Hurts as well. So the minute he logs in, I'll give you the signal, let you know he's back on there.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a lot more Jalen Hurts talk.
And we talked about that last week.
Because you drafted him for a reason. I mean, and a lot of people were immediately thinking, ooh, what's going on with Carson Wentz? Are they trying to replace him or not? When you have someone with that skill set, the way your season is going right now, you got to get everything you can out of that player and his skill set right now. You have to. It's the only way you're going to possibly salvage the season. I mean, it's not going to be pretty the rest of the way, but the best thing for the Eagles is they still have 1, 2, 3 more. They have at least 3 more division games. Well, they got 2, 4. They got 5 division games left. They got Dallas twice. They got the Giants twice starting this Thursday, and they got one more against the Washington football team.
All right, Bird, we got you too.
Yeah. Good morning, Bird. But a guy with yeah, but a guy with
plays by the coach and all of that.
absolutely
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you
That's
hearing,
what
brother.
you
Bird,
hearing.
what's happening, brother?
That's my team. Hey, what's up? What's up?
Hey, listen, man. I need your little spin on what's going on here.
Brother, I don't know the brother that's talking.
My man, that's
I
Dwayne.
just clicked on, but some of the things that I heard him say, I agree with.
thank you, brother.
My only thing is, like, you know, I'm in a lot of sports groups, a lot of the Eagles groups,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a lot of people saying, take Wentz out and play Hurts. This is what I want people to understand. Because, see, the people that are saying that, they don't understand what they watch. What I mean by that is, if you watch yesterday's game, right, it came 1 point in the game. I would say probably like the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Wentz was out there with one starter,
Right.
Jason Kelsey. Everybody else on the field was backups. I'm
Yep.
talking about from the skill position, offensive line. And
Mhm.
some of the backups was
Mhm.
backups to the backups.
Right.
So when people say, I think they should play Jalen Hurts and take Wentz out, this is what I want people to understand. Even if Jalen Hurts has a possibility to be a pretty good NFL quarterback, you will totally destroy that by throwing him behind that offensive line that Wentz
Oh, yeah.
is playing
Oh, yeah.
behind.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No
Okay,
doubt.
get worse.
Because you're talking about he's a rookie who don't even know how to play the NFL quarterback position yet. On
Right.
top of the fact that you're playing with guys on every position off the street. So that's number one.
You know.
Number two, Wentz is better than Hurts. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to just put that out there. Like I said, I've been seeing that a lot. Not saying something, I don't get sure for saying that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But as far as Carson Wentz, I think the last 3 games, he's starting to round back into
Mm-hmm.
what we
Right.
know
Right.
that he's capable of doing.
Right.
And compared to the first couple games, because I agree with the brother, early on he was missing some throws. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of that is part of, is contributed to he doesn't trust what he has in front of him. So a lot of times he's not stepping into throws with that
Right,
offensive
right,
line. And you
right,
see he
right.
had ball throws and stuff like that. And I noticed like on, you know, the Eagles used to be a very good screen team.
Mm-hmm.
They've been hard
Going away from it.
doing
Yeah.
screens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of it been like, it's been times where it might have been, if you look at the replay, some of the screens were set up pretty good, but then you'll see Carson like throw it at the foot or
Mm-hmm.
over the running back head.
Yeah.
And people say that's mechanics, which it is, but like I said, I just think that part of his issue is when you have so many backups and lack of talent, I don't think he trusts in front of him, and he's in his own head. And then I also think that plays a part into sometimes him holding the ball a lot.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
basically, like the ball, he looked downfield, nobody's open, so he's trying to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it works, but then sometimes he got to learn how to just throw the ball away. And just play for the next play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
You know.
I think that's part of his issues right there. But I think the last 3 games against 3 good defenses,
Mm-hmm.
what he was working with, I'm starting to see more of the Carson Wentz that we was familiar with.
Yeah. The competitive
I
side.
think that
I think.
yeah, I just think that when I look at it now, it really shows how Howie Roseman let the team down.
Absolutely.
Listen, all these draft picks over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
you look
yeah.
at the list, like, I mean, you got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, 2nd round pick. He's giving
Who
them
can't
up.
even get on the field
Yeah.
right
He
now.
can't even get on the
Then
field.
you look at Andre Dillon, like, even though he hurt, even before he got hurt, it was rumblings coming out that he might be a bust anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing stuff that in training camp, they couldn't even criticize this guy without him tearing up.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that. I think Derek Barnett has played better this year, but prior to that coming in, he didn't
Yep.
look like the number 12 pick in the draft.
Not at all.
You understand what I'm saying? Even with the Jalen Hurts pick, you know, one can say it's a good pick because Carson injuries, but it was so many holes on the team that I just think it was a wasted 2nd round pick. When
Yeah.
you need linebackers, you can
Yeah.
use another corner.
because that's a pick.
You
That's
understand
somebody
what
you
I'm
could have
saying?
got later on in the draft.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
And what happens too, Bird, what happens too is when your team's not playing well, everything, the whole jacket gets
Yeah,
pulled
the whole
off.
thing
The
off.
skirt gets
Yeah.
it gets pulled off.
And you know,
And you able to see different stuff,
Right.
like you said, with missed draft picks. Had they
Yep.
took this pick, they listen. DK Metcalf was in that
Was
loop
in that
too.
loop,
You
yep.
had 2 picks before him.
look at Justin Jefferson.
Now
He
you
looked-
did take your running back. You
Yeah.
did take Sanders as your
But
running
look
back.
at this year. They went with Jalen Rager.
It wasn't like it was a bad pick.
Right.
It wasn't.
They went with Jalen Rager
As of right now,
as a sleeper.
the Eagles could have had DJ Mack. They could have had Metcalf and Justin Jackson.
Right.
I was just getting ready to say
Right.
they looked at the sleeper pick.
From Whiteside and Reed.
Yeah. So I was just getting ready to say they looked at the sleeper
When you
pick.
compare what they're doing, those 2 wide receivers is doing,
Right.
it makes Howie look bad.
Yeah.
Right. They looked at the sleeper pick, or as it turns out to be the sleeper pick with Jalen Rager, and they could have taken Justin Jefferson from LSU.
Yeah.
He was there for the
definitely.
taking.
Definitely.
But I also wanted to add, Bird, real quick. One of the misconceptions I think that's going on right now with the Philadelphia fan base is the fact that Carson Wentz did what he did the past 2 seasons with the injury bug. And the injury bug is just growing and growing and growing. At some point, it's the NFL. At some point, teams are going to catch up.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, teams are forcing Carson Wentz's hand, and him being in his own head, being the player that he is, the competitive player that he is, he's getting the rap because he's the quarterback, and we all know that. But there are things that are going on that he can't control.
Right.
And like you said, that trust issue is a major, major issue in the NFL right now, especially with the Eagles and Carson Wentz.
All right. All right. Well, Bert, we ain't gonna hold you, brother. You know what I mean? I'm glad you tuned in, my brother.
Yes, sir.
You always saying you got to get down here. I know Mondays is hard for you, brother, but we gonna figure something out, man. Cause you know
Absolutely.
I got respect for your voice, even though me and you go at each other neck
Yeah,
all day long.
we are adjustable, you know.
All right. Well,
We
look,
are adjustable. Yeah, our schedule can be adjustable
Yeah.
because we on in the morning.
All right. Well, look, I ain't gonna hold you, brother. So I'm gonna holler at you later, man. Appreciate you tuning in. All right,
Thanks,
man.
Bird, for tuning in. George Santos, thanks for tuning in. Sheena Nicole Milligan, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to you and Frank. Happy anniversary.
Happy
birthday
anniversary.
to you, Frank. We know you riding your high horse now. The Lakers won. The 49ers got back on the winning track, so we know where you are.
Yeah.
So enjoy y'all time
Yeah.
together. Enjoy your anniversary. Enjoy her birthday. We'll talk to you another
Yeah.
time.
Frank
So-
called me early this morning. It's like, not too bad with all these injured players.
Yeah.
I want to be like, why you didn't call me last week when we got bombed?
Yeah, how about that? So, moving along, I'm going to leave the football thing for right now. Matter of fact, no, I'm not going to leave the football thing. So, we've got 2 Monday night games tonight. I think we had 2 Monday night games last week. We had a Tuesday game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all evolving around everything that's going on in general in society today with COVID-19. The NFL is the first league, or I think the only league, I'm pretty sure, that actually has a COVID-19 list for players.
Right.
It all started with the Tennessee Titans. And from what I'm hearing, there are going to be some stiff, hefty fines and some stuff going on
Yeah.
as far as the NFL with the Titans. Because initially they didn't follow protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it hit them, they continued to not follow protocol because players were at a high school practicing. Your facility was shut down. Dudes, it was shut down for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you all wanted to be who you were, and you wanted to go and practice somewhere else. And it's exploded. So now you've got all these schedule changes. You got teams that have bye weeks that are getting switched around. You've got 2 Monday night games. You got a Tuesday night game in football. And it's getting to the point where it's starting to look worse than baseball. And baseball was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was.
Baseball, I think, is still the biggest. But football is right there,
Yeah.
like almost neck and neck You're welcome, Sheena. They are right neck and neck. Like if this was a race, it's a tie to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a tie.
It's a tie.
There's no control. Nobody got any control.
And the funny thing about it is, baseball. If you look at the way baseball played, the way these other sports have played, baseball was almost the ideal situation to get through COVID-19.
Let me tell you what's crazy about that. The fact that baseball, unlike football, they don't have 53 players. They don't have 53 players on the roster. So baseball, you could have created a bubble situation.
Absolutely.
Because there are more indoor facilities in baseball than there are in football.
Yep.
You could have created that lane of specific places where where everybody had to be at.
And even if you didn't create a bubble, you have to travel. Under normal pretenses, you travel, you stay in a hotel.
Right.
And we know baseball. When you play a team, it's a 3-game or sometimes a 4-game series. So let's just use the example, the Phillies and the Braves.
Right.
The Phillies go down there. They're down there, say a 4-game series, that means they're down there for almost a week.
Right.
They're not staying at home.
Right.
They're staying in a hotel. In these major cities where a lot of these teams are, or right outside of these major cities, there's enough space where you could have put a lump of teams in specific hotels. Only travel when they needed to travel, but make sure that they go back to the hotel after the games. I think that was part of the problem with baseball. And folks, when I said initially that baseball was what appeared to be the ideal situation to deal with COVID. Basketball, you got 5 players on the court, but you know the uniforms, and I'm going in depth with this just a little bit. Uniforms in basketball, they're tank tops, so the sweat pores are open, they're close knit, you got to box off a rebound, you're playing tight D, whatever. Football, guys are right in each other's face, the line of scrimmage. You play press coverage on the outside with the corners, you're right in somebody's face. When you're covering the corner, you have to tackle people. So you're in their space, in their zone. Hockey is the same way. It's a little rough. You in that zone. Baseball, the infielders are all 90 feet away from each other. And you talk about 6 feet, they're 90 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
And I'm probably stretching, I'm just guessing here, the 3 outfielders could possibly be 120 feet away from everybody else, if you just count. So in essence, they had the ideal. And then somebody might jump in and say, well, when a runner gets on base, he's on base. But in Major League Baseball, you can take a lead off that base.
Right. You can get that space.
So you can have that spacing. So baseball was one of the, if you look at it for playing devil's advocate or whatever, was ideally the ideal situation to deal with it, and they failed miserably. So now we got football.
I agree big
that's beginning to fail miserably. And the rash of injuries is another part of the football aspect that came from no training camp, no preseason games. Just wasn't worked out well. Again, kudos to the NBA, who covered all of their bases.
They did a hell of a job.
They went with the bubble, but they didn't invite all 30 teams. They only invited the teams that were in contention for the playoffs, which I thought was smart. And then they had them in a bubble.
And outside of Lou Williams getting the chicken, there was no issue.
No issues.
I think the only other issue was their issue.
One guy left out to go get some food or whatever.
Right.
But they were right on top of it. When
and then somebody else they said was dealing with the chicken.
But
and that turns out not to be the issue.
And the issue is, on top of that, they were prepared for it.
Yeah.
It's not like they warranted it. They were prepared for it. All of those guys that did what they did got quarantined when they came back. I mean, Gordon Hayward left the bubble to see the birth of his child. Something like that, simple as that. And I'm not saying it's simple just to have a baby, but in that particular situation with dealing with COVID in their bubble, they were on top of it. When he came back, he had to be quarantined again. Yeah.
Well, how about this? They had the way they get their food. I watched a little snippet on it with the chefs, and this one lead chef that's there, She walks you through the process of how that
Yeah, I
food
did see
gets
that
to
too, but I
them.
didn't watch the whole thing.
And literally, they have zones that's cut off. Literally cut off. So when her van shows up with this food, it cuts off, and
Yep.
you're not even allowed
Right.
in certain
And I did see
areas.
that they had runners.
They got
that were in their
runners.
areas that went to another area and
And it's like
passed off.
tunnel. It's like
Yeah.
like the food.
And it wasn't like I'm going to my limit and I'm passing off. You
Yeah.
know? So that, like I said, basketball, the NBA gets a lot of respect from me, a lot of kudos for the way they handled it. And like I said, they covered just about every possible angle that they could, or every possible angle that they thought of could be a problem for them. But the football issue, and I'm just anxious to see what happens with the Tennessee Titans. And for a short while, you know, it was a thought and it was a lot of chatter that football season might not get through the entire season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already projected to look at 18 weeks in the regular season right now because of all of these reschedules and altering bye weeks and things of that nature. So 18 weeks of football without a preseason with a minimal training camp is going to be rough. And with the new stuff that's being added in where only one team gets to bye,
Yeah.
and then they adding other teams in now. So this year the playoffs I think is going to be borderline a mess.
It's gonna be difficult, man.
And one
It's
of the
gonna be
biggest
difficult.
problems in the NFL with this COVID-19 situation is a team that's going to be in contention.
Mm-hmm. It's
There's no doubt about it. The Tennessee Titans are going to be in contention.
They are going to be in contention.
Now the question is really going to be: are they going to be able to actually field their roster to continue to be in contention?
That's a good question.
Because we still don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
with them as far as what the NFL is going to do as far as discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's COVID and then there's discipline. So it's like that scale, and that scale is just bouncing back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. You
It's
don't know
bouncing
which,
back
yeah.
and forth. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's a shame because they're having a pretty good season.
They are. They're having a hell of a
They're
season.
having a hell of a season, and it could all be for nothing at some point, which is crazy because, like we said, all you had to do is get these guys in a hotel
And that's
and
it.
leave them there.
And that's it.
Get on the bus, go to the hotel,
What they
go
say,
to the game.
things that are easy to do are easy not to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Mike, thanks for tuning in. Definitely. You know, and it's just crazy, man, that it has affected sports this much. And just in generally speaking, there are people still in our communities, in our society, in the public, who still are under the impression or the disbelief that this COVID thing is really an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's not as rampant as when it first started, but we keep hearing that there's going to be a spike. Joshua Norris, thanks for tuning in.
Mhm.
We keep hearing that there's going to be a spike.
RS.
Right. We keep hearing that there's going to be another spike. And again, like I've constantly been saying, it does not discriminate. We've seen that
At all.
over the stretch run. And we're going back, it's October the 19th today. And we're going back to March.
You know, like I know.
We're going back to March.
I didn't come out the house.
Absolutely. Like I've had my partner back for about 3 weeks now.
I didn't come out the house, man. Like, even when I went back to work for them 6 months in May,
Mm-hmm.
I was so skeptical about going back to work.
And it was working home.
And that was it.
Yep.
And even when I was at work, I mean, I'm taking a break and I'm going to my car. Like, I'm trying not to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're spaced all out in
Yeah.
the joint, and
Yeah.
and when they decided to say, all right, well, the next phase we can't get to that just yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I went back home,
Yeah.
I still didn't come. I was on my deck half the time.
Yeah. You know,
I didn't want to come out.
Thank God for air conditioning because I've just through that whole time, and I'm going to go from March
Yeah.
up until maybe last week,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about the first week, second
Yeah.
week in October. I've started riding with my windows cracked.
Yeah.
For a long time,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't ride with the windows open.
Yeah. It's
know?
kind of
And
weird.
it was a little weird, but it was the simple fact of the work environment that I'm in, and being out because I'm essential personnel, being out and seeing people handle it the way they handled it. I felt like I was at risk if I rolled my window, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
People are still out doing what they do, not wearing masks, not following the directions, and people forget and they take for granted that that old cliche, laws are made to be broken. Yeah, I get that sometimes, but when it's a life-threatening situation, you do the simple stuff. It's not gonna hurt you. It's only there to help.
I mean, I honestly believe that certain people need to see it or feel it. It gotta affect
In order
them.
for
For
them
some
to-
people, it gotta affect them somehow by way of a sibling, a parent, or whomever, for you to get the true effect of it. For the realness.
Yeah.
Some people just gotta. I don't know why. I mean, I do understand why
Yeah,
people.
but they gotta be literally smacked in the face.
Right, but some people it gotta get them.
Yep.
And
It
I
reminds
wouldn't
me-
wish that on
I don't
nobody.
want to wish it on you, but it reminds me of Mike Tyson. And people will probably laugh at this when it says everybody has a
got
game
glad
plan until they get punched in the mouth.
face. Yeah.
With that being said, 11:46, 46 minutes past the 11 a.m. hour. We're gonna take our first break. When we come back, I got something I want to talk about real quick before we get into our Sixers talk and our NBA talk to proceed on. And it's a topic that I think is gonna it's gonna ruffle some feathers, pun intended. So we'll see you on the other side in just a few minutes. You are tuned in to Sports Rap 50th anniversary show. We will see you on the other side in just a few minutes, folks.
Slinging this joker in this camera, see how he gonna rock it. We on this break, ladies and gentlemen. Just went on our little break. See if I bring this joker in here. See if he going. I know he probably on the road. Chris, I know you probably on the road anyway. This is Rise Gold P Gold Train. What's your 4? What's your 50? What's your 20? My bad. What's your 20? Now I done sent you a joint, man. Get on here because you've been talking trash. Troy, what's